we always say this is a place where we come and we give the next hour or so of our lives to focus completely on the person who is Jesus. And in this Lenten season, we look forward to what's going to happen. We're always looking forward to what he's done for us on the cross and our freedom that is a result of all of that. In my wrestling, in my doubts, in my failures, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence, you won't let go. In the questions, your feet will hold. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. Good thing to be able to sing. You don't remember all my shame. It's a happy thing you keep no record of my sin. You don't remember. You don't remember fulfills my every need. Your love is everything to me. Your love is everything. Your love heals every disease. Your love fulfills my every need. Your love is everything to me. Your love is everything.
We're going to do a new song in just a minute, but I wanted to tell you I was reviewing this song this morning. I was watching the YouTube video of it. And I was really just kind of worshiping the Lord as I was watching this video, and then all of a sudden, my YouVersion app, my Bible app on my phone, like busts into my YouTube app, and this verse pops up, and it just nailed me, and I wanted to read it to you. And it says, it's Ezekiel 36:26. It says, I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit I will put within you. And I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. And the song sings over and over again, you are good, you are good, you are good. It sings, you're never going to let me down. And then it says, when the night is holding on to me, God is holding on. And I have found that in my walk with the Lord, the times when life is painful, which it is for all of us often, the times that life is painful, when I can hold a lament, like an authentic lament in my heart when I worship over the things that are painful and hard in my life, I can hold a lament in my heart and I can worship the Lord over that circumstance and kind of hold those things in tandem before the Lord as I worship. That's what he does. He softens my heart. He gives me a heart of flesh. And so that's what I wanted to ask you guys if you're willing to do as we worship, as we do this song today, as we sing, you are good, you are good. If we could sing that over the things that are hard, over the things that are painful in our lives. And let's let the Lord have his way in our hearts as we do that this morning.
Platt Fire Church. We're so glad you're here with us this morning. My name is Susan. I'm on staff here, and part of my role here is to get people connected in our community. So if you are new or visiting with us, or even if you've been around a little while, and you want to get more connected with the good things that are happening around here, here's the way to do it. There is a Get Connected card in your program. If you would just fill that out with as much information as you're comfortable sharing with us, you can put that in any of the black boxes that are around the room. And that is also where we receive our offering the old-fashioned way, if you choose not to do it on the app. So go ahead and fill that out. We do not sell your information. You will get a newsletter once a week that kind of keeps you up to date with the things that are happening here. So lots of things happening around the Easter season that I just want to remind you of. The first is that on the 14th of April, it is Palm Sunday, and the kids will be singing. So if you are a parent, you should have gotten that music in an email. Be practicing with your kids at home. They're practicing downstairs, and that'll be a really fun celebratory week for us here at Platt Park. Then on the 19th, Friday night, we are doing an event called The Passion and the Passover. We're going to do a Seder meal, and we're going to be walking through Good Friday, the events of Good Friday. It's going to be a really powerful evening together. There's a catered meal involved. It's a community gathering. There's a suggested donation. It doesn't cost anything, but there is a suggested donation. But if you could sign up on the app, if you're planning to come to that so we know how much food to order, that would be fantastic. It's going to be a really special night. Gary Ehrenholtz is going to be leading us in that with a couple of other folks. So hope you'll join us for that. And then Sunday, make a note, our service times are different. So if you show up here at 9, you're not going to be here at the right time. So we're doing an 8 o'clock, at 9:30, and an 11. There's full children's programming at the later two services with Easter egg hunts after both. The earlier service, they have childcare for 5 and under, but there is not, your kids will sit with you if you bring them during that one. So just an FYI on that. And if you could park far away, we're expecting to have a lot of new folks. So park far or walk or ride your bike. We have a new bike rack outside, so if it's a beautiful day, please do that. And then finally, this sunrise experience. Gary Ehrenholtz, you may know, he's our young adult pastor, and he is a ultra marathoner. And he has planned this really cool thing. It's not an ultra marathon, I promise. He has planned this sunrise experience where you're going to go for a hike or a run up to a point. And I don't have all the details on this, but it sounds so cool to me that I want to tell you about it. It ranges from 1 mile to 4 miles. You can walk it, you can run it. He has done like an audio experience. So you would bring your phone and put headphones in, and there's an audio experience as you climb to the top. And then everyone would meet at the top and have a little worship time together as the sun rises. Sounds like it's going to be so neat. There's more information on our website and also on our app. So if you're interested in doing that, look that up or reach out to Gary. He can tell you all about it. But it really sounds neat. I'm not a runner, but I might try and hike it. We'll see. So there's more information on that on the app, and we hope you join him. He does want people to sign up on the app so he knows who to expect, and he will give you different routes depending on if you want the long or the short. So that's happening. So we are in for a treat today. My very good friend, Stephen Milburn, is going to give us the message today. Friend from seminary. I'm not going to say too much about him other than he's dear and wonderful. He has been here probably about a month and a half ago. You may have heard him speak. So he is back with us. Tim and Susie are actually vacationing with their kiddos this week, so they're not here if you're wondering where they are. So Stephen, please come up, and he will continue our series on Holy Saturday.
Donation and candy are appreciated. Good morning, Platt Park.
Good morning.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Stephen. I get to continue the series with us this morning on Between Cross and Resurrection, that space between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. But before I do, would you join me in prayer together? Holy Trinity, we love you and we trust you. And we ask this morning that you may guide us, that you may enlighten us, that you may reveal something to us that we haven't seen before. We ask that you open our hearts to receive in a way that is beyond our own capability. And it's in your holy and precious name we pray. Amen. Amen. Between cross and resurrection. Now we're in week 3 of this series. Now if you joined us a little bit before, we are looking at what does Saturday in this space have to offer us. If Good Friday reminds us that the perfect sacrifice of Christ can atone for all the sins of all of people and all of time, and Resurrection Sunday teaches us that he conquers death, then we are looking at what does Holy Saturday have to offer or teach or demonstrate for us. Because I believe, as we've suggested before, that Holy Saturday is largely how we've lived a lot of our life so far. We think of Holy Saturday as when kind of the plan stops working and expectations begin to go a little bit unmet. And we're left in this kind of space, this new space, that we were beginning to struggle in a new way. And so that's what we're going to talk about today in terms of Holy Saturday. Now, philosophers have a word for Holy Saturday. They call it an apocalypse. And sometimes when we say that word, we think of like, oh, Revelation. We go like immediately that direction. And we can think of it in a macro sense or a micro sense. An apocalypse is nothing more than just hidden things revealed that bring upon more destruction. So if we think about Holy Saturday in that sense, we're bumping into a form of destruction around the way things not like that used to be that can't keep being that same way. Anthropologists have a word for Holy Saturday. They call it liminal space. Right? They refer to it as the ambiguity between when everything makes sense, like between like what used to be the case, and what has yet to come. And since we don't and are unclear on what is to come, we're referring to that space in that in between, where we are negotiating new territory for a new time. As spiritual directors, we just talk about it as disorientation. We talk about there's ordered, there's orientation. It's when things make sense and it's clear. And then there's seasons of the journey, moments in the journey, punctuated events where we bump into something and we experience disorientation before we return back into reorientation. See, Saturday is that in-between space. And so this morning what we're going to talk about living in that space. What it looks like to live in the space where it is liminal, where it feels like an apocalypse, where it feels disorienting. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how to live in that space, that territory, that landscape well. We're going to look at what happens when we're on a journey, because we're all on a journey. We're all making a trajectory somewhere. An event or a circumstance or a person or an experience happens in life where we can no longer move forward, we have to make a shift. We're going to talk about this morning when the shift happens in life, what we do, where we go, how we make sense of it again. How we make sense of it again. See, when I was growing up, I remember going to church on Sunday mornings. I'm one of 5, so there's a lot of us. And we would hop in this old, 1972 blue GMC Suburban, like my family of 7. And I remember heading to church, and my dad would try to persuade us. He would on the way to church, he would say, if you guys behave today, we're going to stop at that Safeway on the way home, and we're going to get some donuts. And he would try to persuade us into behaving well. And I don't remember a ton of donuts in my life, but I do remember these experiences where we were misbehaving. I remember those experiences. So one of these experiences is at church, in a pew similar to these pews, where it's kind of like a family of 7 shows up and we kind of install and we take over a whole pew. It's like a Little League team showed up. And it's kind of like this, where you have the first couple pews are buffer pews between you and everyone else, right? No one ever sits in these generally, but it's the Milburns sat in this pew together. And I think my dad was really proud to be look at what I've done. And I remember we would be in this pew together and we would be singing worship songs. And I remember singing this one song, Blessed Is Your Name. Do you know this song, Blessed Is Your Name? It goes a little bit like this. You give and take away, but my heart will choose to say, blessed is your name. And I remember sitting in the pew with my brothers as we're kind of just misbehaving and goofing around. And we're singing a song. and we sing, you give and take away. And my brother, like, you give and take away. And my brother Thomas leans over and goes, but mostly take away. And I remember thinking, like, that can feel like true, actually. That can feel really true sometimes. You give and take away, but mostly take away. And I think that's what Holy Saturdays can feel like. Like, yeah, I've heard that you're good. I've heard that you give. But sometimes I wake up in the morning and it feels like you're taking something away. It feels like we're taking something away. I think that is what Holy Saturday looks like in real time. I think that's probably how the disciples felt on their Holy Saturday. When they woke up the morning after the crucifixion. Can you, like, imagine just that setting? Like, oh, I just had the worst dream. To realize it's not a dream. Oh, well, where is he? Oh, he died. Like, that's what Holy Saturday offers us. It's disorienting. The plan that we had, the expectation we set forth, changed. And we're left struggling with ambiguity again. That's what Holy Saturday has to offer us. I don't think it's super foreign. I think Holy Saturdays are everywhere. I regularly wake up and I'm thinking, this feels like a Holy Saturday today. Today feels like a Holy Saturday. In those spaces of feeling like this is apocalyptic, this is liminal, this is disorienting. And I'm struggling again for that emotional and spiritual equilibrium. Do you know what I mean? Do you feel like this a similar sense sometimes? See, one of mine was on May 28th a couple of years ago. May 28th I'm a road cyclist. I love being out on my bicycle. And a couple of years ago, the day before May, I was on a ride. I was training. This was like a 12-month training program for this endurance challenge I was going to do. And I went on a long ride, and I rode up to Cheyenne, and I was on my way back. I actually rode to Cheyenne. I took my selfie, like, to prove to people, my wife especially, that I got there. And I like, stopped to get some Thai food, immediately got back on the bike, and then regretted the Thai food. And was like, okay, where do we go? But I remember, like, as I was riding back into town, this is, like, east of I-25, on these small little, like, county roads, there was this event, there was this experience, where I was just riding on the side of the road, and there was this herd of antelope to my right, over to the west. And they saw me and I saw them. And as I rode, they like joined me, oddly enough. And then they kind of like sped up, so then I sped up. And like I got like a little bit more arrow and I like chased them down. And then they chased past me and we kind of had this like mild play race together. And I remember thinking, this is unbelievable. I can't wait to get home and tell everybody I know and have them not believe me. Like, it was one of those events in life where you're like, this is special. This feels special. Feels almost set apart. And then the next thing I remember, I was riding on the side of the road, and the next thing I remember is I began to be, like, lifted off the ground. I began to get lifted off the ground. And I remember the blue sky on the horizon began to, like, occupy most of my vision. And I saw these, like, kind of glistening things in the air that, like, turned out to be glass. And I saw my bike kind of go this direction. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is what it feels like to get hit by a car. I remember, like, thinking this. And then there was a moment, there's a period that I don't remember a ton of. But I think I made a couple different impacts based on, like, some damage that happened, and I slid to a pause, like in the middle of the road. And I do remember thinking, and I was laying on my back, and I was looking up, and I remember thinking a couple things. Probably like a lineage of expletives first. That's probably just true. But I also remember thinking, this is going to ruin everything. This is going to ruin my plan. Like I had a plan. This ride was supposed to continue to grow and develop so that I could execute this challenge that I'm interested in the fall. I also remember thinking, this is going to get me out of Boulder tomorrow, which isn't a bad thing. But I do remember thinking, this changes everything. This changes everything. And then I was faced with that Holy Saturday where it's, okay, who do I need to call? When are you supposed to make those calls? You don't make that call when you're laying on the pavement. My wife is an ER nurse. I don't make the call like, hey, this is the circumstance. You like wait until things stabilize a bit before you make calls. And I thought, was this like a 6-day journey until I'm like back fixed? and things are better again. I actually remember, like, in the hospital, like, contacting clients that were coming into town the next week and telling them, hey, we're going to have to defer this a couple weeks, not knowing, like, how damaged things were. I mean, this was like a 6-month process, not like a 6-day process. And I remember, like, I went from a bed where, like, you're locked up in machines and they're kind of, like, moving your body in different ways to get you, like, mobile again. Things were, like, tied down. I remember moving from a bed to a wheelchair. Monica took me to go see the Impressionist installation at Denver Art Museum on Dilaudid. Like, it was, like, an interesting experience. But I went from, like, a bed to a wheelchair to a walker. Like, I'm a 31-year-old with a walker. Like, that is not, like, the image that I'm trying to project. I had, like, anyone who had white hair gave me grief while I was, like, going around town with a walker. And then I had, like, 3/4 crutches, dual crutches. I remember my first day working back, I, like, carried a crutch as I stood up to, like, write. And being like, this is a long journey. And I think that's what Holy Saturday feels like. Holy Saturday can feel a little bit like getting hit by a literal truck. And I think Holy Saturday can also feel a little bit like getting hit by a figurative truck. And I wonder if we know those experiences as well. Do we know the experiences where maybe we get the diagnosis after a series of tests and it disorients us and we go, oh, there's no way of going back. You only go forward from this, and I have no idea what that territory looks like. I remember 10 years ago, I left a doctor's office with that disorientation, with feeling like there's no going back. There's only going forward. I actually remember, like, winding up in a small chapel I'd never gone to before called Sacred Heart of Mary. And I opened up the doors, and I was like, are these even locked? And the doors were open, so I walked in, and I don't remember how many hours I was there. It felt a lot like days. But I remember, like, sitting in that chapel and just crying. And not like gorgeous, beautiful, like Hollywood tears. Not like where somebody reaches across and wipes it away with the knuckle of their pinky. This was like anguish. It felt like despair. I think that's Holy Saturday. I remember screaming. I remember raising my fist to the sky like it was an antenna. Do you see me down here? Do you hear me? Do you care? Can I trust you again? Why would you let something like this happen? I think those are things that come up on Holy Saturday, because I think those are holy questions reserved for that day. And I don't know about you, but for me, when I experience those Holy Saturdays, I'm often wondering, is he going to come in and rescue me? Is he going to come in and restore this pain? How long am I going to have to wait? Maybe you too are experiencing some form of Holy Saturday in life right now. It's likely that it's somewhere. Are we experiencing it in our marriages? Where we feel like, oh, a shift has happened. And there's no going back. It feels like a bomb, actually. And there's no going back. And I have no idea what tomorrow looks like. But I feel like I'm struggling again to find emotional and spiritual balance and harmony again. Maybe it's at work. Maybe at work we're just waiting. We're just waiting. We're waiting to be recognized for the contributions that we've made. And instead that like 10-year younger associate takes your promotion. And you continue to wait. And you wonder, how long is this waiting going to take? Maybe we experience it in relationships, with friends, with family, with others, where we know, hey, we've done a long journey together, but we have had a shift. Something has shifted. And I am waiting for us to reconcile again. I've got relationships like that. I'm just waiting for this relationship to reconcile. It's waiting. It's everywhere. I think we read about it when we read about Confessions of St. Augustine. He unpacks the struggle he has in trying to reconcile how a loving God could take the life of his beloved child. Right? It's throughout history. I would argue it's probably since Genesis 3, and when brokenness entered, we've entered into a new landscape. A Holy Saturday of sorts, in a macro sense. I think it's what Christ felt when he was crying out, my God, why have you forsaken me? I think it's that anguish and despair. I think that anguish and despair is a question reserved for the experience of Holy Saturday. And thankfully, we're not just the first group to try to figure out what do we do after we encounter a shift in the story. In fact, the Apostle Paul does a remarkable job for us, guiding us in some of the ways to encounter this new territory. He talks about in his letter to the Romans, he says, the difficult times of pain throughout the world, those are simply birth pains. But it's not only around us, it doesn't just exist out there in everyone else's story, it's within us. I feel it. The Spirit of God is arousing us within. We're also feeling the birth pains. These sterile and barren bodies of ours are yearning for full deliverance. The NIV puts it this way: we groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for the adoption as sons and daughters. I did that part. And the redemption of our bodies. We groan inwardly as we just wait eagerly, which is almost like we're at the edge of our seat with our craned necks, just anticipating. Is it out there? Is it coming? Do you see it? The NIV would continue, for in this hope we were saved. But hope that is seen is no hope at all. For who hopes for what we already have? But if we hope for what we do not yet have, then we wait for it, and we wait for it with patience. In this hope we were saved. We're saved by faith in hope. In hope of what? As we groan inwardly, we wait eagerly for the adoption as sons and daughters, and for the redemption of our bodies, and for everything else. For the redemption of everything else. We wait in that hope. The message it would actually translate those last few verses. That is why waiting does not diminish us. We are enlarged in our waiting. We, of course, do not see the waiting as enlarging us. But the longer we wait, the larger we become. In the process of waiting, with hope and with patience, we are enlarged somehow. So we talk about we are enlarged in waiting with hope and patience. What is hope? Hope, Dallas Willard describes hope as the eager expectation of goodness from God. That's good, right? What's hope? The eager expectation of good things from Him for me. We wait with hope. And we wait patiently. We wait patiently. Our waiting is engendered with patience. Eugene Peterson talks about waiting. What's waiting? Waiting is the refusal to act before God acts. Do I do that? Do I know when I'm not doing that? Patient waiting is the refusal to act before God acts. I'm going to wait on your movement. But we will choose to wait with patience, choose to wait with hope. See, waiting for the Lord, there's a high likelihood that waiting for the Lord is the most difficult aspect of the Christian journey, because we don't always know what it looks like tomorrow or the next day or the day after that. And we are waiting with this weight, with a burden for things to be reconciled again. See, I would suggest that the shifts that we experience in life that introduce us into these Holy Saturdays that feel dark and disordered, I would suggest that those spaces, they're not like an anomaly in life, that it's an epidemic of life. And when we're experiencing them, we can participate in them, and we can choose whether or not this experience of Holy Saturday will, in fact, as Paul would suggest, enlarge us, or expand us, or strengthen us. Or we are in the ability to making those experiences in life hinder us, tether us back somewhere,
make us disillusioned, bring about embitterment. See, I think waiting we can do in a couple different ways. We can wait. We can. I've done it. We can wait with worry and anxiety and fear. I'm not a stranger to that, but that's just waiting. When I grit my teeth and I am just waiting for something to pass, that's just waiting. But when we choose to wait, as Paul suggests, with purpose, with hope, and with patience, that's something categorically different. That's something that feels a little bit or sounds a little bit like holding vigil. And holding vigil, traditionally speaking, is this prayer that you reserve for the middle of the night under this mantle of mystery where it doesn't get any more dark and there are little signs of light. That's vigil. That's vigil. And as we sang earlier, and as Dana reminded us earlier this morning, the beauty of vigil is that while we wait for him, he is simultaneously, somehow, waiting for us. And then we get to partner together in waiting for one another. And that is the way that we participate in the process of waiting. See, waiting is an active sport, right? Sometimes we think of waiting as like, oh, I'm waiting around. It's not passive, it's active. It's an active participation. Henri Nouwen talks about active waiting this way. He says, active waiting that pays attention is fully present to what's going on around him. And to an all-outer awareness, nothing is going on around him, right? It's paying attention and full presence with what's going on around him, even when it feels a little bit like nothing around me is going on. I think it's again what Paul is talking about when he's talking about that is why waiting does not diminish us. We're enlarged in our waiting. We, of course, don't see it enlarging us. But the longer we wait, the larger we become. Some of that I can take at face value, and I'm wondering, how do we kind of engender it into ourselves on a cellular level where we begin to operate out of this belief? And I believe that we have agency within inside this waiting space. I think we have participation inside of this space. The author Calvin Miller puts it this way. Any Calvin Miller friends? Calvin Miller is he writes these beautiful poetic allegories about different passages of the Bible. And in this allegory is written on Genesis, titled A Requiem for Love, which is just like a really good title. And if you're looking for a book to read your kid, this is a good book to read to your child, A Requiem for Love. But in A Requiem for Love, he says life, when he's talking about negotiating this space, he talks about life found itself alive and somehow knew its opposite was death. We are ever being born or dying, and the thrill of choosing, that's ours. He says, only once must we die without our own permission. Only once must we be born without our own consent. And what he's inviting us to is that we have participation, that we have our agency. We are ever being born or dying, and we get to participate. We can wait in a way that we are living, that we are being born. And we may wait in a way where it feels life-thwarting. We can wait with anxiety and worry and fear. That's waiting. And we can wait with a purpose, and with patience and hope, and that's holding vigil, and that's life-giving space and territory. See, the space of active waiting, the thing is we're constantly looking for what do I see and what do I hear differently in that space? And I think this is true, and I think the longer we wait, what it begins to enlarge in us is how we hear and how we see. And I think part of the invitation in it for us is that in the process of waiting, we begin to hear and see things differently. I think we begin to hear and see things as he hears and sees things. And it invites us into the story that he's up to and that he's writing. And that he has invited us to follow in. So imagine with me, if you would, for just a moment, if those Holy Saturdays that we're currently experiencing in life, because they're all around us, and I don't know if the goal is to get rid of that. If the Holy Saturdays of our life, what would it look like if instead of experiencing them as kind of this fist to the sky and final cry into an empty universe, what if instead it looked a little bit like holding vigil and believing and trusting and hoping that things will ultimately be reconciled, will be redeemed, will be restored, and they will be for our benefit. See, my prayer for us, my prayer for me, and my prayer for you, and my prayer for us is that when we are experiencing those Holy Saturdays that are inevitable in life, that we believe a few things. That we believe that God is with us, right? I am with you and I will keep you wherever you go, is what Genesis 28 says. That God is with us. That God is for us. I will never stop doing good to you, is what Jeremiah 32 says. My personal translation of that passage is, hey, Stephen, I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to stop doing good to you. Ever. I don't know if there's enough evers in that. But that's Jeremiah 32. God is with us. God is for us. And that he is faithful, is what Deuteronomy says. Deuteronomy 7 reminds us that he is faithful to uphold his covenant of love to 1,000 generations. And there is that goodness ahead, just around the corner. God is good. He's with us. He is for us. And there is his goodness just around the corner. Will you pray with me? Holy Trinity, may you help us believe when we don't believe. May you help us believe that you are, in fact, with us, that you are, in fact, for us, and that you are bringing goodness about. When we find ourselves in the midst of the disoriented and dark, liminal space of Holy Saturday, Lord, I pray is that we may choose. We may choose to have hope in the adoption as sons and daughters and the redemption of all things, that we may choose that. And that we may choose it with hope and patience. We love you and we trust you. And it's in your holy and precious, precious name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Stephen. During this communion time, I would just invite you to be thinking about this, the Holy Saturdays that you might be facing, and how we can wait well with purpose. On the night that Jesus was betrayed, he shared a meal in the upper room with his friends. And he took some bread, and after giving thanks for it, he broke it and said, "This is my body, broken for you. As often as you eat of it, do so in remembrance of me." And after the supper, he took a cup of wine and said, "This is the cup of the new covenant, my blood poured out for the forgiveness of sins. As often as we eat of the bread and drink of the cup, we proclaim the Lord's death until he comes again." Serving us this morning are Joy and Keith and Chi-Chi and Kyle. Would you come forward to prepare the table? If you've not received communion here at Platt Park before, know that the communion table is open to all. And we come forward as an expression of our faith around the room and say a prayer. And I will also be in this doorway over here. If you'd like to receive personal prayer this morning, I would be happy to pray with you for small things or big things. So feel free to join me over in the prayer corner if you'd like to do that as well. The table is set. Come forward as you're ready.
invisible, God only wise, in light inaccessible, hid from our eyes. Most blessed, most glorious, the Ancient of Days, almighty, victorious, thy great name we praise. Unresting, unhasting, and silent as light, nor wanting, nor wasting, thou rulest in might. Thine justice like mountains, high soaring above, thy clouds which are fountains of goodness and love. To all life thou gavest, to both great and small. In all life thou livest, the true life of all. We blossom and flourish as leaves on the tree, and wither and perish, but not change and free. Great Father of glory, pure Father of light, thine angels adore thee, all veiling their sight. All praise we would render, oh help us to see, 'tis only the splendor of thy hiding the times we're in these Holy Saturdays, it's, the Lord puts us there on purpose. It's the only place that we grow. When we stay in our comfort zone and everything's working the way we are, we never move from one place to another, and it can be disorienting. One of the best things we can do is, like what Stephen's saying, that He is faithful. It's His faithfulness that's brought us thus far. It's His faithfulness that will continue as we look. And we can look back on our lives and say, how have you brought me here? What are the things that you've done in my life? What are the things that you've done throughout history? I'm just going to put that here in my back pocket as I wait to allow myself to trust in your faithfulness. Walking around these walls, and I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won. For you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never failed me yet. I know the night won't last. faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Promise to stand with your faithfulness. You never failed me yet. And I never will forget. You never failed me yet. I never will forget. Please receive this benediction and say it with me if you'd like. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors. Go in grace and peace to love and serve the Lord. If you see a face you don't recognize, go smile at him, talk to him, ask him another question.